She was dubbed the action movie queen. Pam Grier was battling conflicts that no one knew about, according to the cameras. When she was 6, she was attacked by boys who were supposed to keep her safe. At age 18, it occurred once more. Producers in Hollywood then attempted to purchase her body for use in films. She repelled every one of them. Her worst foe in 1988, however, wasn't a human. Inside her, it was growing. Also, the manner she became ill would reveal a secret that profoundly changed Hollywood. Pam Grier was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, on May 26, 1949. Clarence, her father, served in the Air Force, and Gwendolyn, her mother, was a nurse. His job meant that the family was constantly on the go. Pam felt as though she had never truly had a home. She was just 7 years old when they relocated to Swindon, England, in 1956. A strange new world had emerged. However, Pam observed something unexpected. She was not despised by the children there for being black. They were brought up to despise Germans, not us, she remarked afterwards. She carried that moment with her. The family returned to America and lived close to Denver, Colorado, in 1958. But this was a harsh place to live. A nightmare that occurred while Pam was only 6 years old left her permanently scarred. She was in Swink, Colorado, visiting her aunt. A group of older lads cornered her there and attacked her. Includes her cousin. Brought her into a laundry area and sexually assaulted her. During the attack, a phone repairman entered and frightened the lads away. Then, as if nothing had happened, went on to fix the phone in silence. Pam never forgot that. She claimed that it made her fear the world instead of the joyful little girl she once was. Her stuttering began. She kept it to herself for years. So she was embarrassed. At age 18, it occurred once more. The pain she had deep inside returned after she was date raped. It would be decades before she wrote her memoir that she would discuss all of this. Pam encountered yet another harsh reality in the beginning of the 1960s. America's racism. People in England hardly paid any attention to the color of her skin. However, everything was different in Denver. For them, buses wouldn't stop. Restaurants turned them off. Pam was informed that a swimming pool was reserved for white people when she attempted to enter. She and her father were prohibited from trying on clothing in several stores as early as 1969. They were obviously unwanted, but Pam had a long family history. Through the Underground Railroad, her mother's family managed to flee slavery and achieve freedom in Wyoming. Pam's fortitude came from her survival background, which also influenced the strong roles she eventually picked for her films. Pam joined the Miss Colorado Universe pageant in 1967 at the age of 18. She did it to assist with college expenses rather than for celebrity. She required the funds to attend Metropolitan State College. Although she was one of the top finalists, she did not take first prize. At the time, that was significant enough for a mixed-race girl. More significantly, she was spotted at the contest and given a Hollywood contact. She was able to get her first agency that way. She was singing backup for Sly Stone and Stevie Wonder shortly after. She even witnessed the recording of Jimi Hendrix. She packed up her belongings and relocated to Los Angeles that year. LA life, however, was hardly glamorous. It wasn't easy. There was no money for her. She had no ties. So she mastered the phone system on the fly and faked her way into a job at a switchboard for a casting agency. To make ends meet, she took on several jobs. She worked in reception and as a hostess. Even a model for art students who is naked. Slept for only a few hours per night and occasionally only had one meal each day. Over 40 occupations were held by her between 1967 and 1970. As she pursued her aspirations, she was doing everything she could to sustain herself. Being mixed had made education difficult for Pam back in Denver. Chinese, Filipino, Hispanic, Black, and Cheyenne. She was unlike anyone else. Children shouted her names and harassed her. Even strike her. She thus attended classes on self-defense. She practiced martial arts not just to regain her strength but also to fight back. She then incorporated those abilities into her on-screen persona. She was not playing the tough guy in movies. Indeed, she was. At the age of 19, she took a daring choice in 1968. She declared herself ready when she called the Hollywood agency from the contest. Having just $200, she took up residence in a small flat that was only 200 square feet, with 2 additional females. In the 1970 cult movie Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, she landed her first acting role as an uncredited extra. She watched and learned from the actual actors during those long days, even though she only made $25. Although it turned become her acting school, the system wasn't designed with her in mind. Only parts that emphasized stereotypes, tribeswomen, and exotic villains were offered to her in 1969 and 1970. Background dancers. Both the roles and the money were poor. When producer Roger Corman spotted her at a party at the beginning of 1970, everything was different. Her height and strength astounded him. He gave her a part in the upcoming movie, The Big Dollhouse. Realized it was her opportunity. She practiced martial arts and weapons for hours on end. Her muscle mass increased by 15 pounds. She was prepared now. But calamity struck just as things were starting to get better. She received an invitation from a major Hollywood producer to meet with him the same year. If she didn't sleep with him, he told her bluntly. Pam didn't agree. She had to physically defend herself from him as he attempted to attack. She considered relocating back to Denver and resigning. Abandoning Hollywood, but she didn't. She did not leave. That inner fire only intensified. She used every role that followed as an opportunity to retaliate. Her performance in The Big Dollhouse in 1971 was an unexpected success. Although only $125,000 was spent on filming, it brought in $10 million at the ticket office. She performed her own stunts as a tough prisoner, including a mud wrestling scene that required 3 days of filming in knee-deep water. Following the set's destruction by a storm, Roger Corman acknowledged that although the film was a huge blockbuster, it ended up being hotter and more raw than he had intended. Pam and a whole new genre of women in prison movies were introduced by it. She appeared in Women in Cages that year as a nasty warden. It was harsh and divisive. Scenes in which she tortured other characters stretched the boundaries of what viewers could tolerate. Later on, Pam expressed that she didn't feel proud of those naked photos. She felt duped. Used, yet she was memorable because of the character. Nobody was able to look away from her. She was the star of The Big Bird Cage in 1972. Using actual guerrilla methods taught by veteran combatants in the Philippines, she portrayed a rebel organizing a prison escape. Intense and occasionally hazardous action sequences were featured. One scenario showed a prisoner crushed beneath a bamboo mill. Parts of the movie felt real, so everything else did. Pam wasn't faking anything. She was performing her own tricks, as well as with actual training. She starred in the film Scream Blackula Scream in 1973. Lisa, the voodoo priestess she portrayed, had the ability to lift a vampire's curse. Worked to transform the character into something more than a fearsome woman in a horror movie. She insisted on respecting the voodoo elements and refused to perform naked scenes. Despite the vampire's continued dominance in the narrative, Pam's character resisted. In the same year, Pam Grier rose to fame. She portrayed a nurse in Coffee who, after her sister was ruined by drugs, became a vigilante. Despite only costing $125,000 to make, the movie earned between $2 and $1 million. One of the most outrageous scenes in the movie was created by Pam herself. During a combat scene, she used razor blades that she concealed in her afro. It was raw, startling, and unforgettable. That one scene came to symbolize all that Pam stood for. Fearless and bold. And invincible. Was more than just a hero. One was her. Pam Grier never took any chances. When Foxy Brown debuted in theaters in 1974, people weren't prepared for what they saw. The audience was stunned by one scene in particular. Her character did not simply receive retribution. She made sure it was painful. The harsh order was given by Pam's character when the culprit who killed her boyfriend was apprehended. She had him castrated. She then gave his fiancée the glass jar containing his remains. It wasn't a stunt. Completed by another person. Created the entire choreography herself. She desired a sense of realism. It succeeded. It brought in about $4 million for Foxy Brown. Moreover, it redefined the role of women in action movies. It wasn't her fault. It was she who people were afraid of. In the same year, she portrayed a female gladiator in the movie The Arena. She received strikes and bruises while training with actual swords. And continued. She was injured in one of the crazy chariot chases. However, Pam was not the type of actress who avoided suffering. She leaned in. The film, which was produced on a mere $75,000, was her second collaboration with Margaret Markoff. It wasn't only a film. It was evidence that Pam could endure anything, even in the days of ancient Rome. She played the lead in Shiva, Baby in 1975. She fought the mob as a private investigator using her actual karate talents. However, the movie didn't do well despite all that action. People were becoming less interested in blaxploitation movies. Its lack of Foxy Brown's edge and violence caused critics to refer to film as Pam Grier light. It seemed too safe, too tidy. People weren't expecting her to do that. Friday Foster made his public debut later that year. Amidst a crazy vehicle pursuit, Pam drove herself. She portrayed a photojournalist who transitioned into a detective and ended up at the center of an assassination conspiracy. The film was more than just an action film. It had a point. It demonstrated how black leaders were being singled out. The future and togetherness were discussed. With American International Pictures, it was her final film. She had moved beyond the use of firearms. Her mind was working, too. She performed in Bucktown as Aretha in 1975 as well. She retaliated against dishonest police officers in a tiny town. During the filming process, she improvised a phrase on women's rights. Even though it wasn't in the screenplay, test audiences found it extremely powerful. It was retained by them. The strength of Pam's presence was evident. Her remarks had weight even when she wasn't reciting from the script. Before the blaxploitation era faded, it film became one of her final major hits. After that, things changed. Her participation in Fort Apache, the Bronx, in 1981 was entirely different. Charlotte was a drug-addicted sex worker who murders police officers. It was eerie and dark. She was on the same screen as Paul Newman, who earned $3 million. And 15% of the movie's earnings. Pam's contribution was little yet memorable. She was deemed eerie by critics. She demonstrated her depth and darkness in the part, but it also began to stereotype her as a broken woman rather than a hero. Something Wicked This Way Comes, a Disney movie, featured her in 1983. She portrayed the Dust Witch. However, when test audiences didn't like it, Disney became alarmed. Remaking the film cost $4 million. Some of Pam's scenes were edited down or eliminated completely. The movie was released 5 months later than expected. When a black lady was shown in a fantasy role, Disney was hesitant. They held the audience accountable. Hollywood, however, really didn't want women like Pam in magical tales. It broke my heart. On television, she found a new home from 1985 and 1989. She portrayed Valerie Gordon, a New York detective, on Miami Vice. Her family's history and military upbringing allowed her to contribute real-world experience to the position. She recognized it and wasn't simply being difficult. She frequently dealt with corrupt diplomats and her lost sister in her unvarnished narratives. She displayed both tenderness and strength. That position kept her career afloat during a challenging period. At UCLA, she also began directing theater around this period. While working under Roman Polanski, she made an effort to learn as much as she could. Her goal was to demonstrate to the public that black actors were welcome in all types of stories by staging an all-black version of Frankie and Johnny. Pam didn't care that the reviews weren't all positive. She was becoming better at taking charge. Love had never been easy for her. She was in a relationship with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the early 1970s. Back when Lul Seen-Dor was his name. He urged her to give up her individuality, convert to Islam, and don a headscarf. No, she said. 1973 saw their breakup. She then got to know Freddie Prinze in 1973. Despite being a tremendous sensation at the age of 19, he was unstable. Before he committed suicide in 1977, he gave her a call. Despite her attempts to stop him, he hung up. He died a few hours later. She was always feeling bad. Next up was Richard Pryor. They began dating in 1975. He was intelligent and charming, but he was addicted to cocaine. During a visit to the doctor, something terrible was found. Cocaine residue was found within her body. He was the source. She walked up to him. He didn't think it was serious. She broke up with him in 1976, but things didn't stop there. When she visited the Stir Crazy set in 1980, she discovered him using cocaine without a permit. Please, she pleaded. No, he said. A few months later, he was involved in another freebasing mishap and caught fire. She had no surprise. She anticipated it. She also briefly dated Wilt Chamberlain. Years later, when he claimed to have slept with 20,000 women, he wrote about their meeting in his book. Without her consent, he disclosed personal information. She was very angry. Exploitation, she said. Nobody inquired as to her feelings about being on such a list. At the height of her career, Pam Grier was 39 years old in 1988. She led a good life and was physically fit and active. She abstained from drugs and alcohol, avoided eating meat, and ran 6 miles every day. For her, everything was going smoothly. She was preparing for the future, considering marriage and starting a family, and looking at houses. Everything changed with a single phone call. She thought it was just a standard examination. Became something dreadful. Her cervical cancer was diagnosed as stage 4 by the doctors. The 4th stage, not the 1st or 2nd. She was given 16 to 18 months to live. After being given a huge folder containing medical records, she was instructed to begin drafting her will. Even the initiation of treatment was delayed, due to the fact that her body needed time to heal after the shock of surgery. While the cancer spread, she had to endure the news for 6 weeks. She continued working. It was all the more surprising for that reason. Even though she was filming Above the Law with Steven Seagal at the time of her diagnosis, she continued to appear. She kept it from the workers. Wigs were worn by her. She shed many pounds. She continued her torturous chemotherapy. Kept grinning and performing. Pam applied what she had learned from her mother's work as a nurse to manage the pain without turning to painkillers. The emotional suffering was far more intense, but that required tremendous strength. The man she was in love with failed to attend her initial chemotherapy session. Then, for 5 years, he simply vanished. She was all alone in the battle of her life. Later on, she added, cancer teaches you who your true friends are. It was also a harsh lesson for her. Things worsened. She was still fighting illness when her sister, Krista, passed away from breast cancer in 1990. She was like a true sister to Pam. Krista had been a flight attendant, and Pam always thought that the harmful chemicals she had been exposed to while flying were the cause of her cancer. It wasn't the end of the suffering. Freddie, Krista's kid, couldn't cope with the sadness. Shortly after his mother passed away, he took his own life. Pam had received threats from Freddie before he passed away, which made her fearful. The fact that she chose not to meet him troubled her. She broke down in tears at a hotel as the police surrounded the scene after learning what had happened. While all of this was going on, Pam was still struggling for her life. Then the unexpected occurred. At her San Fernando Valley home one evening, she was watching a documentary called Healing in the Mind with Bill Moyers. The image displayed a Chinese woman with a big tumor on her back. The tumor disappeared following weeks of pressure therapy, acupuncture, medicines, and meditation. Pam interpreted that as a sign. She chose to take her chemotherapy together with Eastern medicine. A Chinese herbalist who treated her with specific herbs was recommended by her doctor and advised her to wash her body with hot tea while eating. Yoga was added by her. She adhered to everything with military rigor. She felt that being surrounded by nature, pure water, and fresh air all aided in her recovery. Her body began to fight back gradually. One day, the physicians gave her an unexpected revelation. She had gone into remission. She is still here, even though that was over 35 years ago. She became a cancer awareness ambassador, advocating for early screenings and encouraging people that when you fight with all of your might, miracles may happen. She didn't have the deepest wound on her body, though. Her heart was in it. She started therapy years after she recovered from cancer. At that point, the truth was revealed. Since the age of 6, she had been bearing agony. That's when a bunch of boys sexually raped her. Then again by a trusted person when she was 18. It was the first time she mentioned it. She shut everything inside. But everything came to light in therapy. The suffering. The injury. After decades of dealing with PTSD, it all made sense to her. Her harsh characters on screen were survival, not simply parts. She wore them like armor. Her portrayals of strong women were all reflections of herself. Defending, surviving, and fighting for what remained of her soul. She revealed that the courageous persona that people admired was derived from actual suffering in her autobiography, Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts. It was her truth, it was never merely a performance. For Pam Grier, something significant occurred in 1996. She eventually made an appearance in Tim Burton's odd sci-fi comedy, Mars Attacks, after years of being confined to modest TV roles and dwindling movie roles. She portrayed Mother Louise Williams, who was trying to survive a Martian invasion while driving a bus. Actors like Pierce Brosnan, Glenn Close, and Jack Nicholson were standing next to her. The picture was shot all over the world, from Argentina to California, and cost $80 million to produce. It brought Pam Grier back into the public eye after a long absence, despite its meager global earnings of $101 million. Something else became conceivable because of that return. All of that changed in 1997. For her, Quentin Tarantino wrote a film that year. In order to fit Pam Grier, he changed the lead part and turned the novel Rum Punch into Jackie Brown. He wanted her, not the white actress from the book. And she did. She portrayed a flight attendant who smuggled cash between Mexico and the United States. But the plot wasn't the only thing that gave her such a strong performance. In Coffee and Foxy Brown, Tarantino paid tribute to her career from the 1970s, when she dominated the screen. On a $12 million budget, Jackie Brown earned $74 million, and Pam received a Golden Globe nomination. Her critics adored her. Even her co-star Robert Forster received a nomination for an Oscar. And now she was no longer forgotten. She was back. In 1998, she maintained that momentum. In the Lynx series that Showtime debuted, she portrayed Eleanor Winthrop, the shrewd and tough leader of a children's rights political organization. This mixed comedy show took place in a pub in Washington, D.C., with important issues like justice, poverty, and race. Pam made it more than just acting by incorporating her advocacy from real life into the part. It received 5 nominations and ran until early 2000. Her ability to switch between action, drama, and witty humor without losing her edge was further evidence of this. She was all over in 1999. She played Detective Vera Cruz in the teen film Jawbreaker, which followed a clique at high school. Keeping a Lethal Secret. The film was fun, much like Heathers, but it also had a somber tone. Despite the campy nature of the picture, she gave the plot substance. In the same year, she also provided the voice of a talking nightingale in the animated series Happily Ever After. Children were educated about inner beauty in this episode. It demonstrated that even off-screen, she was still capable of moving hearts. Next was the drama Holy Smoke, which was directed by Jane Campion and is recognized as Regarding the Piano. Harvey Keitel and Kate Winslet shared sequences with Pam. Although it wasn't ostentatious or boisterous, the picture was profound and creative. And it was once again evident that Pam Grier was a good fit for serious movies. She continued to move quickly when the 2000s rolled around. She played prosecutor Claudia Williams on the Law & Order, SVU guest series from 2002 to 2004. She didn't play a big part, but it was strong. As evidence of how noteworthy her performance was, she received 2 NAACP nominations for it. She landed one of her most poignant television performances at this time. On Showtime, the L Word first appeared in 2004. Bette Porter's older sister, Kit Porter, was portrayed by Pam. In addition to working in music and battling alcoholism, Kit was straight and constantly attempting to serve as the social coordinator for her sister's group of friends. Her journey, which ran for 6 seasons, dealt with loss, sobriety, and love. One of her most impactful moments was when she declined a proposal of marriage. She claimed that her closest loved ones were unable to lawfully get married. That sentence was very powerful. Pam portrayed Kit until the show's 2009 finale. She was unable to participate in the reboot years later. She was filming something else already. In the comedy Bless This Mess, she portrayed Constance Terry in 2019. The episode focused on a couple that relocated to rural Nebraska from New York. Pam was the store owner and the town's sheriff. She embodied the role's comedy, charm, and strength. In the same year, she also starred in a movie that shocked many. Olive, a 70-year-old woman who joins a cheerleading squad in a retirement facility, was the character she portrayed in the film Palms. She did dance, too. She gave on-screen cheerleading performances. Although the plot was deemed predictable by critics, Pam's enthusiasm was remarkable. Age didn't stop her, as she demonstrated. No. In her 2010 memoir, Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts, she detailed her entire life. Readers were horrified and more than 100,000 copies were sold. At the age of 6, she was gang raped, and at the age of 18, she was sexually attacked. Her relationship with Richard Pryor was also discussed, and she detailed how his drug use impacted her heart and general health. The candor was strong yet hurting. Additionally, a biopic called Pam began development as a result of that novel. After hearing Jay Farrowa's imitation, Pam decided that he should play Richard Pryor. Written by Benny Richburg, the writing was characterized as devastating and unvarnished. Although studios were still evaluating it at the time, the proposal had already generated a lot of interest. Jackie Brown has 16 nominations for awards, however she never received an Oscar nomination. She was named by IndieWire in 2016 as one of the greatest actors who was never nominated for an Academy Award. The comparison to John Travolta, who received one for Pulp Fiction, was particularly hurtful. Although they both had comeback roles in Tarantino movies, only the white actor received recognition. Halle Berry once claimed that without Pam Grier, her career would not have been possible. That says it all. Then there were the phony tales. According to some, she was prohibited from attending The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in 1994, following a guest role. Was entirely false. She performed as Janice Robertson, and she accomplished her job. The rumors continued to circulate in clickbait videos with titles like Pam Grier Banned, despite the lack of drama. The real thing? She recorded her episodes. She walked out. It's that simple. Her story's harshest moments surfaced during the Me Too campaign. She talked about how she turned down Harvey Weinstein in the 1970s and 2018. Long before he lost power. Jackie Brown, which Miramax released, was how she and he had met. Later, after Weinstein's incident, she lost a part in a major Amazon series starring Robert De Niro and Julianne Moore. She did not, however, remain mute. She gave TED speeches about rape and overcoming cancer. She empowered people, warned them, and protected them with her voice. She has not faded even now. At the age of 76, she appeared on The Jennifer Hudson Show in May 2024 and related a crazy scene from the set of her 2001 movie Bones with Snoop Dogg. "He's capable of smooching," she added with a smile. She then burst out laughing. At one point, Snoop acknowledged that he fainted in the restroom when he met her. The impact of that kind is permanent. For more than 20 years, they have been pals.